Hey everybody, it's me, Kelly with Kellie Consulting. So today I want to talk with you about learning styles. Learning styles in that conversation is a bit controversial because you hear people talk a lot about it, but does it really exist? The notion of learning styles means that essentially people learn, generally speaking, 4 different manners, and that's typically in the visual sense, the auditory sense, the kinesthetic, so that's like physical action, and then reading and writing. But this is really a myth. So learning styles don't necessarily exist. They're really modalities or different methods of learning or preferences that people may have. But the idea of saying that people have specific learning styles means that they only learn using one specific medium, and we know that to not be true. Interestingly enough, several years ago, I was at a conference and somebody had mentioned that an individual in a class was a tactile or kinesthetic learner, so somebody who learned with physical action, because they tapped their pencil on the table. Now, I would actually challenge this and say that they were probably tapping their pencil on the table because of nerves, a nervous habit, or maybe they have a little bit of ADHD, or maybe they just like to tap their pencil on the table. So these are preferences. We really need to understand the learner that we're teaching, but also understand the content that comes into play in order to develop effective training. And effective training is not going to focus on one of these particular modalities, but it's going to incorporate everything. And so really the idea with learning is behavior change. And not only does that take time, but it takes time and it takes reinforcing that information. How are we going to develop training that's effective? As I mentioned, adults learn through experience, through repetition, through also reflection. The thing with adult learners that's different from children is adult learners want to be able to implement what they are learning. They bring prior knowledge and learning into play, which sometimes can help and sometimes can hinder the learning process. But they want to be able to reflect on that. They want to be able to say, oh, okay, I am learning this and this is how I've learned this skill and how it applies. And they also want to be able to reflect on how they're going to use that skill in the workplace. So I'd use the example of a surgeon. And a surgeon is not going to learn how to do a surgical technique by one learning preference or modality. It's going to be several things. They may visually watch a video or a lecture about a certain procedure. They may also read up on case studies about it and reflect on some of those case studies about this particular procedure. But then they may also, and likely are going to be practicing this in hopefully a virtual environment where they're practicing how to hone this skill before they actually do that on physical people. But they're gonna be practicing that. So they're going to be bringing in all of these different modalities to be able to learn that new surgical technique or skill. They may prefer to read case studies. They may prefer to watch some videos and retain information in that way, but they're really going to have that well-rounded experience in order to really perfect that skill and to really understand what they're doing in order to implement that new piece of knowledge. I would encourage you to think about using the terminology learning styles and to really think of it in a way of more preferences, that all different types of learning is often incorporated into a teaching or a lesson or a workshop. But hey, I may really prefer to listen to podcasts, or I may really prefer to read up on some case studies about this particular topic. So I encourage you to think more about that and think about how you may be implementing these different preferences into some of the work that you do. And what do your students think about it? Or what do your learners think about it? I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. And don't forget to follow me on social media. Those links are in the description below.